Hi, I'm delighted to be joined today by Jim Oulton, who is a partner in Mayer Brown's litigation practice in our London office. And today, Jim, we're going to be talking about professional risks. So we're currently facing a series of difficult economic challenges. And I just want to start by asking, how has that environment impacted the risk of claims and regulatory issues brought against professionals?
So it does impact, Amy. We haven't seen a significant rise at the moment in the number of claims against professionals, but when businesses fail or underperform, or the value of assets is questioned, inevitably the role of the professionals who've been involved in those businesses and providing advice to them comes under scrutiny that it doesn't come under in benign economic times.
So you haven't yet seen a particular increase in these claims?
So the number of claims issued against professionals last year is on pretty much the same level as claims issued in 2021. There's undoubtedly an uptick in regulatory activity, but I anticipate that claims will come. They usually do come, but as people go into the front end of difficult economic times, they usually mind their cash to start with and then work out a way to bring the claims.
And do you think that is then going to continue this way in the short term, or is it sort of going to be an ongoing issue in the foreseeable future?
I think a lot depends on how the economy performs, but if the economy effectively stays jumbling along at a low level, or we go into recession and businesses fail, then I think claims activity and regulatory activity will increase.
And what sort of claims are commonplace against professionals?
They come in two sorts. A lot comes around asset values or underperformance of contractual arrangements. But in terms of the types of claims, you can often bring them down to miscommunication, where there are multiple advisors involved, a lack of clarity as to who is doing what. Those are probably the two most common causes. Sometimes you get technical errors, but actually the technical errors tend to be less frequent than errors around communication or lack of clarity as to roles.
And is there a certain type of professional that's more at risk here?
I think every professional is vulnerable. Some professionals have been in the news much more than others. I think as asset values become volatile, those who've been involved in some way in valuing them or preparing financial statements tend to be at the forefront of claims. But everybody is vulnerable, and everybody can expect their work at some point or another in the economic cycle to have their work under the microscope.
And have you seen a change in how these claims are brought?
So I think that comes in two parts, Amy. Undoubtedly, the arrival of the litigation funders has changed things in the last 12 or 15 years. That said, many claims aren't suitable for litigation funding, or claimants don't want to share in the rewards of the claim if it succeeds with litigation funders. I also think that professionals need to be aware, and this is very much something for the start of any engagement, that allegations of conflict or breach of ethical requirements have become commonplace in claims now in a way that they simply weren't 10 years ago.
You mentioned litigation funders, Jim. How have you seen then the funding of these claims change over the years?
Well, if you go back to the great financial crisis in this country, the impact of litigation funding wasn't particularly significant in my view. Whereas now most people who defend professionals will have come across litigation funders, and it certainly means that claims that would not have been bought are bought classically by insolvency practitioners who've got access to funding that they simply wouldn't have had 15 years ago.
And how do our clients then look to mitigate their risks of these claims being brought?
So the first line of defence is very much business intake. Know the client you're taking on. Your second line of defence are your terms of engagement, by which I mean make sure you've got contractual documentation in place which precisely records your retainer and incorporates appropriate terms and conditions, including liability caps. Those are absolutely your first two lines of defence.
And what do you advise, Jim, your clients to do if a claim is actually brought against them?
Don't panic. Get the right advice from the outset. Speak to your risk manager, speak to your general counsel, and then go about finding a team who you trust to give you advice in what is a difficult situation for any professional, but making sure that you work with that team to analyse the problem and so you can get the right strategy to resolve the claim in the right way for you is paramount.
And final question for you today. For clients who are watching this, what would be your key takeaways?
I've already mentioned business intake and terms of engagement. The other thing that I think is really coming to the fore in litigation is the importance of the contemporaneous written record. So if risk managers do nothing else at the moment, if they can get out to people within businesses how important it is to write things down, then that will save them vast amounts of time and money.